The 559th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play the fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100 times your entry in NBA, MLB, MMA, NHL, golf, and more. Sign up today at UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code MMA SGPN and get a 100% deposit match.
Howdy ho, Degenerinos. Welcome to episode 559 of the MMA Gambling Podcast, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. This episode is dedicated to Fight IQ. Rest in peace, Fight IQ. Because as of last night, it no longer exists, apparently. So thank you for coming to the show. I am one of your hosts, Jeff, the Gumby Killer Fox. Yes, I've given myself a nickname, which I always insult people that or complain when people do that, but I've decided my name's at least on Discord, I'm the Gumby Killer because I had another 10-3 week, ladies and gentlemen, 3 weeks in a row, 10-3. People claim it's because I'm chalky, but I hit like 3 dogs the week before. So,
and how many this week?
No one hit any dogs this week because the only dogs that came through were ridiculous dogs. So, of course, we're talking about UFC 301, which turned out to be a fun event, at least in my eyes. It was pretty fun. We'll see what my co-host thinks. He went 8-5. He did okay. He hit his lock. He's going to tell you, he hit some fancy prop plays too, I think, in real life. So we'll bring him in and we'll chat about UFC 301 and we'll look ahead to what our friend Jong already claims is Tabitha Ricci Baby Shark fight week and Slava Claus fight week, which is coming up. All right. His name still is Gumby. In a couple months, it shall become Gumby God again, hopefully, but right now he's just Gumby. It's Daniel Gumby Vreeland. Hello.
I like how you decided you needed a new nickname after hitting only chalky plays for a week.
Oh, no, this has been a week. People haven't given me any nicknames in the Discord that I approved of after my last week's performance. So I decided I'm the Gumby Killer because I beat you again. So it won't last. Don't worry. I'll get bored.
I was gonna say, did you last year?
Nope. I'll get bored. I'll get very bored with it. So Gumby's under the weather if you can't tell, but he is soldiering through. Luckily, we're not doing 3 episodes today, or that would quite a toll on this man's body. Was it UFC 301 that beat you up, Gumby? It was a pretty fun event. Am I right with that statement?
I thought it was pretty fun, mostly because we got to see like a lot of new prospecty types, and they took huge leaps forward. All 3 of the fighting nerds who wound up fighting this weekend all won. So, I'm happy about
Gumby
that.
Had a fighting nerd parlay, right?
And the 2 that didn't wind up fighting, Gian Silva didn't wind up fighting, obviously, because it looked like his opponent was going to die on the scale.
That was crazy.
William Gomi comes in 3 pounds under the limit. They're like,
underweight.
He just threw
clothed,
up.
Fully clothed.
Threw up in the back. He's fully clothed, and he's 3 pounds underweight. And they're like, the fight might go on.
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah.
And then luckily they canceled it. So hopefully Gian Silva gets booked pretty quickly. And then the other fight that got canceled for the Fighting Nerds, which we'll talk a little bit about regional MMA tomorrow, was Icaro Brito got canceled off of his LFA fight. But according to Tapology, it's because he got signed to Contender Series.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yep. That's basically your goal as a regional fighter at this point. Not like 1% maybe get through without having to go on Contender Series, like the very rare fighter. Like
you pretty much have to be a big guy. I've noticed they have been signing some like light heavyweights, and then like the occasional woman, because like they're also not hitting lots of women's fights on Contender Series. So like sometimes like talented women like Melissa Dixon didn't have to go through, and Tainara Lisboa didn't have to go through, and Nora Cornell didn't have to go through. Like those are all just signees. So like they're not making all the women do it, and then they're also not making all of the like big dudes go through. Like Omar Sy just got signed by the UFC. He's straight to the UFC from at light heavyweight. So like that seems to be the only way around it. But if you're like a 55er or a 70 or 45, like you better pray for Contender Series.
Yeah, it's also timing too. This time of year, you're not going to get into the UFC unless you're
short notice.
Unless you're short notice. Yeah. So anyhow, good luck with it. Bree 2. We will discuss him in a couple months when Contender Series rolls around. But yeah, it was fun evening for the Fighting Nerds for sure, and their de facto leader. He doesn't want to be the leader, but he probably the big. Well, obviously he's the highest ranked fighter, biggest personality, probably the best English speaking of the bunch as well. Kyle Ohio came through last night for the Fighting Nerds, so and came through for us, and really came through for Gumby, I think. So we'll get all to that after I tell you we have other shows on this network. I think you people probably know that already, but if you don't already, and you're a hardcore baseball fan, Gumby and I are. I wouldn't say I'm hardcore. I'm a baseball fan. Gumby definitely is a hardcore baseball fan. Or you're just a degenerate. That's all of us sitting in an office looking for some afternoon action. Either way, you'll want to make sure you subscribe to the MLB Gambling Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. They have a nice rotation of hosts. It's always great when Malcolm's on there with his British accent. Don't let that fool you. He knows his baseball, even though he's only been a fan for a few years. The man is deep in his baseball knowledge. So as deep as his bathtub gets when he does his baseball research. So make sure you listen to and watch the MLB Gambling Podcast. All right, we're back to the MMA Gambling Podcast. The UFC 301 went down last night. Pantoja versus Usyk, a fire main event. It was on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you in Rio de Janeiro. Crowd was calling for lots of death last night, as per usual, as we expect from Brazilian crowds. And for the most part, they had a pretty fun night. Brazilians, or at least the big name Brazilians, came through, including the man in the main event. Alexandre Pantoja beat Steve Usyk in a very good fight. They didn't give out fighting night. This would have been my pick for fight of the night. 48-47, 48-47, 49-46. There was a lot of, I want to say heated discussion, but there really isn't ever heated discussions in our Discord. There was a lot of respectful discussions after the fact over who won this fight and what rounds to give people. Which basically shows that it was a good fight, a good competitive fight. Seems to be the consensus is Usyk basically fumbled the bag in the last round by going for a late takedown, getting himself reversed and controlled for to end the fight. Because he was doing most of his damage on the feet in this fight. And it seems the third round was the swing round. I think Pantoja got all the judges picked Pantoja in there, but Usyk, that's when he did his most damage with an elbow. So yeah, fun fight, definitely up in the air fight. Usyk came out of here looking better than he did going in for sure, despite the loss. Pantoja is our working man champion. We need a working man champion, at least one that will, every few months you can throw him out there. He will headline or co-headline a pay-per-view, and he will deliver exciting fights. So anyhow, good fight all around. We had Pantoja at -185, but it was a sweat.
Yeah, I wasn't in the Discord so much because I was under the weather, and it wasn't easy for me to do very much on Saturday night.
And some jerk in there changed his name to the Gumby Killer, so I would stay out of there too.
I didn't think that fight was very hard to score. Call me crazy. I gave every even round to Usyk, and I gave every odd round to Pantoja. And I thought that was pretty simple. Like when the judges' scorecards came, I was a little surprised somebody gave Pantoja 4. Like I don't know how you give him 2 or 4.
Yeah, fourth round he punted basically.
Well, yeah, and is that the round they wound up giving him? Right? Is that it was?
I think so. Yeah.
But I know he won 49-46 on one of the judges' scorecards.
Yeah, right.
An arguably terrible scorecard because Usyk definitely won 2 and 4. I thought, what Pantoja does on the ground is always dominant enough and like lands enough strikes that he wins those rounds. But to your point, I think Usyk, he surprised a lot of people with the way that he uses length. He jabbed really well. He made Pantoja work to get inside, and he punished him when he didn't work to get inside.
Yep.
But ultimately, what I said on Thursday's episode rang true. Usyk has gotten by grappling-wise for a very long time by being an immensely better scrambler than the person he's fighting. The best scrambler he's fought so far is Alessandro Costa. And he dominated him. He made him look foolish on the ground. And Pantoja is just not Alessandro Costa. He is so much better than that. And, you saw it in the 5th round when Usyk wound up underneath. He kept trying to do some sort of large movement that would create a scramble and then would wind up back up on his feet so that he could box again. And Pantoja was like, that's cute. You're staying here. And that's essentially the difference maker in this fight is you got a guy who's really good at scrambling nobodies, and you got a guy who's perhaps behind Mighty Mouse Johnson is the best grappling flyweight of all time.
Yeah, he is possibly the best flyweight champion of all time. He has the second most defenses at this point, probably behind he's already got 2 behind Mighty Mouse. Yeah, good. The scrambles were very good in this fight, and it just showed Pantoja was on a different level when it comes to that. But yeah, Usyk, well, you shouldn't have a title challenger that could open people's eyes, because you should have them built up enough that people know who it is. But well, we knew who he was, but it seems like a lot of the casual, obviously. If you're not a hardcore fan, you're not going to know a guy who just fought Matt Schnell last fight.
Yeah, and if you look at his ranking in the UFC rankings, which I don't think helps the matter at all, he was ranked 10th.
Yeah.
And I just told the folks who are in our Discord, which by the way, you should be in our Discord to get this kind of insight. At sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. I told them I had already had him at 5. He was already at 5 for me. So the reason he's at 10 is because somebody else has probably got him at 14 or 15, or enough people have him at 12. I already thought he was high. And I have to imagine following this fight, more people will come closer to my number than I will theirs. Because I think he moves up the rankings with this loss. I think he looks better than whoever they had at 8 or 9, because I had him only behind guys like Amir Albazi and Manel Cape, and I think that's where he belongs, really, is because he was damn near almost good as Pantoja.
Yep. As for the scorecards, Dave Torelli, the judge who gave Pantoja 49-46, it was the second round that he gave Pantoja.
That's better, but
less,
not right.
less than the fourth for sure. So fun fight regardless of what side you fell on scoring wise. But good fight, and Pantoja, keep rolling him out, man. He's not the youngest cat out there. Took him a long time to become champion, and he's doesn't disappoint when you put him in title fights. Let's go. He's 34 already. Let's go. Get him in there in a few more months, assuming his forehead heals up quickly, because that was a nasty cut he had there. So not the nastiest cut. We have a nastier cut coming up soon enough. So the next 2 fights were big bombers, Gumby. It was a fantastic night for me.
I told people on Thursday, don't bet these. Don't put these guys in your parlay.
It's true.
Like I got them wrong in like the pure pick sense, but I was also like, who the knows?
Yeah, well, these were totally foreseeable events that happened in both these fights. Yet it was still very frustrating that it did happen. First off, we'll talk about the co-main event. Basically, the biggest star of the night was Jose Aldo Jr. And they're saying Jonathan Martinez was starstruck. That probably was a bit of the case, but Aldo just put it on him. Basically, it wasn't. I'm sure it was a bit of both. It was Aldo was better than expected, and Martinez was a little worse than expected. But I think all credit should go to Jose Aldo here. Now that I've had a night to sleep on it, I'm not quite as angry as Jonathan Martinez for that performance as maybe I was last night. But 30.7 across the board. He got skunked by Jose Aldo. It wasn't just that got pieced up. Aldo put it on him and really was battering him, especially at the end of the fight there. So Aldo looked fantastic again, despite being 37, despite being off 2 years, despite being probably 2 weight classes lower than he should be, 1 weight class lower than he has been for the majority of his career. And I guess I hear he left the door open a crack for actually coming back to the UFC, which is good news. Maybe he won't run off to boxing after all.
He's definitely running off to boxing. He's leaving that open.
At least for one fight, right?
He's leaving that open to see if the UFC will match, and they won't pay him what boxing's going to pay him. So, I think he's gone to boxing. With that being said, I'm going to put the blame back on Jonathan Martinez. I know you just took it off of him. What's one thing you have to do against a guy who you know is rusty? You have to exploit the fact that he can't find range early in the fight. You have to take it to him early before he figures out what he's doing. Because once he figures out what he's doing, and we all know this about Jose Aldo, he's going to be sharp. Whether or not he's his fast old self or whatever, he's going to be sharp once he starts to find the range. Martinez basically gave him a free round to find range and then lost that round too. Not only did he not take that round from him, he basically gave him a sparring round to figure out what it felt like to be in there with him. And then it was easy for him for the second and third. Like that first round should have been pushing forward the whole time, trying to stop Jose Aldo from figuring out the range, making it a gritty fight, making it a nasty fight, landing his leg kicks. And he was afraid to do that. He himself spent too long finding range where he needed to turn this into a brawl for the first 5 minutes and then try to steal one of the last 2 rounds. I think the game planning was pretty terrible here by Jonathan Martinez.
Yeah, it seems like it was him too. His corner was pretty, adamant that he was fumbling the bag here. So maybe that was wasn't just low fight IQ. It was young fighters fumbling their big chances. It was the name of the game for the top 2 fights. So
yeah, let's talk about the other one.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, top 3 fights is true. But isn't this embarrassing to the UFC that all their premier names are dying to leave so they can actually get paid?
No, I mean,
sport. Like, I guess I know they don't care, but they should. They really should.
They don't care for a couple of reasons. Number one is they've already kind of sold us Jose Aldo is old and done, right? Like that's part of why he was an underdog in this fight, is because they've been telling us he doesn't give a shit anymore and he was retired. And that's also why he's fighting Jonathan Martinez, and he wasn't fighting, Corey Sandhagen. That's why he wasn't fighting Chito Vera. Because if he went in there and he did this to Corey Sandhagen, which, by the way, I don't think he would have, but if he had done this to Corey Sandhagen and then left, that's scary for the UFC. Doing it to Jonathan Martinez, who largely has, next to no hype behind him, not a problem for them.
Yeah, that's true. That they don't care though. They make enough money. They don't. UFC is all about the UFC and Dana White. Dana White's basically the biggest star in the UFC. Always has been. So, all right. Before we move on to the most frustrating fight of them all, let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. You won't be frustrated here. Underdog Fantasy has got you covered because the NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor Underdog Fantasy wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing the pick'em game is the simplest. Selected higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. Make entries on all basketball or mix and match across your other favorite sports. You can win up to 100 times your money, and it's a ton of fun. Yes, they have MMA, and if you follow our socials and our YouTube channel, you will see Gummy and I put up Underdog slips all the time to give you some advice for the Underdog Fantasy. Plus, it's available in 30 plus states, including California, Texas, and even Canada. Maybe someone hasn't told me yet. Have you guys invaded and taken over Canada?
Last I heard, no.
No, but perhaps this is they're tipping their hand. Underdog knows. They have the inside scoop. Plus, if you live in Florida, which I'm sure a lot of listeners do, they also just launched Champions, their player versus player format in your state. So check that out. And most importantly for everyone, make sure you sign up with our code MMASGPN. And Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog, a fantasy promo code MMASGPN. Win-win, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have to talk about this? There's so many things that makes me angry about this next fight.
I love this next fight.
Yeah, good. Anthony Smith defeated Vitor Petrino, submission guillotine choke, 2 minutes into the first round. I had just typed into I actually was active in the Discord last night for a change on fight night. I was left alone enough that I was actually able to watch in real time and type of stuff. I had just finished typing how Anthony Smith was getting battered in this fight. And then next thing you know, Vitor Petrino's like, I'm doing so good on the feet. I'm going to take it to the ground, because that's what you do in if a football team is killing you with the run game. Hey, that's just pass from now on. So, and he got himself caught in a guillotine choke. Before he even hit the ground, he was stuck in this guillotine choke, but he went down anyhow. Anthony Smith got the win. There's so many things wrong with this. We have Petrino. That was one thing that was wrong with it. I was suggesting everyone take Petrino via knockout, which could have happened if he just stayed on the feet. And maybe most annoying of all is Anthony Smith's going to think he's good still. He's going to think he has a title run in him still. And he's going to keep talking about how there's levels to this game.
So I love this for a number of reasons. First of all, I told people to stay off of it because of this exact point. So I love that. Number two, I love that Vitor Petrino finally took this kind of loss, because he was really close to taking this kind of loss a lot of times. I've been saying he was going to take this kind of loss for a lot of times. I didn't predict it here, but it has been it has been right there a lot of times. And I'm glad he took this kind of loss, because if he is going to round into being an actual contender, he can't be doing stuff like this. And he's been doing stuff like this since he was on the regional scene, if we're being completely honest. So this should be a really good learning moment for him, or this will be the moment where he turns into a meme. And either way, I'm here for it. It's going to be fun. And then in terms of Anthony Smith, hey, maybe we just find a great line fading him next time out, because if anybody chooses not to shoot a sloppy double leg, he's going to lose. He doesn't have the chin to take this anymore. It already looked like Petrino was going to knock him out here. Anybody with a little bit more fight IQ here just absolutely tools on Anthony Smith. So if it is the case where people start to have more faith in him because he submitted a hot prospect, sign me up for more of that then, because I think he's about to get knocked out.
There you go. Good cop, bad cop. Gumby switched back to the good cop. He's putting good spin on things for us, which is good. So yeah, Anthony Smith, he's become such a loathed character over the past year or so. It's fairly recent. He wasn't always loathed like this, but he seems to be now.
I think it's the, he's more visible now because he's on podcasts and he does the desk and stuff like that. And it's the blind confidence following like 3 losses. Like nobody likes when a guy gets like meme knocked out twice in a row. And they were like, again, meme knockouts. Like he got knocked out and he like stumbled around and fell on his face. And like Ric Flair style. When somebody does that and they're like, oh yeah, I'm not done. I'm just getting unlucky. And it's like, no, dude, you're getting knocked out brutally. Like, that's not unlucky. That there's a reason that's happening. So, like, it's those guys who, like, have the platform to make the excuse that often wind up getting hated.
Yep. People like me a lot more before I had a platform to talk to. So I get it. It makes perfect sense. We had back-to-back guillotine chokes. This one was more fun. This one was also a nail biter after the fight. It wasn't a nail biter until after the fight, which is odd. Middleweights, Michel Pereira, guillotine choked Ihor Pottier, who looks totally different now. The hair, like, did he always have that huge tattoo of that guy in the cross on his whole body? Like,
I don't think so, but I don't really. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't paid a lot of attention to Ihor Pottier.
No, but it really stood out. Anyhow, he looked like a different man, but he did not fight like a different man. Got himself knocked down. You called a moonsault. That was
I did call the moonsault.
Twisting moonsault, knee to the head to a downed opponent, which technically is an illegal blow by Michel Pereira. But Pottier somehow made it to his feet to get himself guillotine choked. And then John Jones style, he just got dropped while he was unconscious and fell to the ground. 54 seconds into the round, but it was into the fight, excuse me. We had Pereira minus 599. Gumby had Pereira via sub. As half of the Hungry Man Jong, and I think he had it in real life, or at least he was telling people in the Discord to bet that, which is good. But yeah, this was especially after the officials conferred forever and Bruce Buffer looked nervous. I thought we were going to get a disqualification, which technically it probably should have been, or something should have happened there.
So first of all, his sub last fight was plus 650, and we hit that. His sub this fight plus 375, slowly creeping down towards even money to get this guy.
It's going to be the ones next fight, probably.
His sub game is nasty. I'm just going to put
that goes for it. That's the key. He goes for it.
Yeah. Yep. And so then the other thing I will just say is I actually don't think he should have been DQ'd. Because it wasn't, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, in my opinion, it wasn't a strike. Because remember, if somebody's leg happens to hit your face on the way by in like a grappling exchange, like if somebody's going for a Kimura, let's say from a side control position, and they step over your head and hit you with their shin in the process, that's not illegal. If you knee them in the head or if you kick them in the head, that's illegal. Now, was what he did wildly reckless and might wind up with like an inadvertent clash of your shin? It looked like a shin bone to the face. To be completely honest. His knee looked like it more landed on the collarbone. But like, is that unfortunate? Yeah, but it was also just like a guard pass. Like if you don't treat it like a moonsault as a strike, which I don't personally, I don't think doing a flip is a strike. I think he meant it as a guard pass. All kinds of things hit all kinds of things during guard passes, right? Especially when you're that reckless. I personally don't see that as a strike to the head. I see that as an inadvertent clash of your leg in the guy's face in the process of passing his guard, which like at the very least should have called for a timeout and been like, oh, accidental, whatnot.
Yeah.
But definitely not a DQ. And I also don't think it did much damage, if we're being honest.
No, it's true. I'm glad.
I was sweating.
I am glad.
I was sweating at plus 350. I was like, please, this can't be. And like maybe there were some fantasy lineups at stake as well. Michel Pereira definitely needed to make sure that he got that first round finish. So I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad senses prevailed.
Yeah, I think he was in the fantasy lineup. I had told all my readers at Money MMA on my Substack to pick him up. So obviously, I'm glad he prevailed as well. Now, originally, everyone's calling for a step up for him. They forget originally he was supposed to fight our man Mahmoud Muradov, aka Ahmed Vert. But has he surpassed that level already? Or should they just rebook that? What should they do you think?
I'd like to see him book with somebody similar, but Mahmoud Muradov just got removed from the potential rankings.
Oh, really?
So like he's no longer a name as that's an option for middleweight, which usually tells me one of two things. They're really mad at him for pulling out of a fight yet again and have fired him, which sometimes happens. We see that all the time. They're really mad at him for pulling out of a fight, so they've taken his votes away, which is less common when you're not already ranked, right? Like I think they did that with Lauren Murphy when she got hurt and pulled out of a fight. But like with him not being ranked, that wouldn't be much of a punishment, or he failed a drug test.
No, that doesn't happen anymore. So you can scratch that one out.
I mean, I think people are still failing drug tests. I'm still pretty sure that people are still failing drug tests. I know people are super skeptical of the new system, but I think there are still failed drug tests. So I think it's one of those three things. So, but somebody Muradov level makes sense for me. You know, I think after his last win, I suggested the Iron Turtle, Jung Young Park. Yeah. I'd like him. Yeah, him versus Jung Young Park would be really fun, or somebody of that kin. I don't think he's ready for a ranked opponent yet. Because let's face it, Potiera and Olashejuk, not a great level of competition.
No.
But get him a little bit closer to that, you know, like almost Joe Pyfer level, but like not Joe Pyfer.
Be Joe Pyfer. Yeah, I think Heavy Hands mentioned that it's interesting that a lot of older fighters seem to be coming through now ever since USADA went away. So I'm checking if the stats actually do bear it out. I track the younger fighters. Younger fighters are only winning 56% this year as opposed to 61% overall, like since historically. And then they're 5 years or older. If the fighter's 5 years or older, they're winning 59% instead of 63. So maybe there's something there. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but yeah, I think it seems to be less stringent.
A few more supplements being used.
Yeah, definitely less stringent testing going on. But hey, who's to say? It's just something to keep in mind when you're betting fights going forward. So, and then we stick with middleweight. The opener, Kyle Bahile, came through for us. Not that we like seeing Paul Craig get beat up, but Paul Craig got beat up here. He was just eating. He was eating punches like it was haggis back in his native Scotland. He got knocked out 2-10 into the second round. We predicted this. Kyle Bahile predicted this. Everyone's happy that he came through. I had him via knockout at plus 250. That was my prop of the week. Hit that. And we both had Bahile at minus 550. And we both are fans of his. So we're happy he came through here.
Yeah. And he gets a performance bonus, 50K for him.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, and I couldn't be happier. Like I think people sleep on how good his striking is. You know, I said to a couple of people who were like, you know, how's he going to beat Paul Craig? Is he just going to point him to death? And I said, I think everybody's forgetting what he did on Contender Series, and I might have even said that on Thursday. Is that like what he did on Contender Series showed some really phenomenal hands. And even if you want to go back to his regional dates, like he could swing them. So I think he is now showing that he is the well-rounded fighter that we've kind of already known he was. He called for Jared Cannonier. I personally don't think he's going to get Cannonier because Cannonier thinks he deserves a title shot or close to it. But like, why not Marvin Vettori or somebody like that?
Yep. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, he definitely
Jack Hermanson.
He needs a UFC Apex main event. He's middleweight, but this would be a middleweight main event we want to see. So I don't care who they put him up against, but he deserves it for sure.
I mean, Cannonier would be fine with as hell.
Yep, it's true. And he's a budding star, so they should definitely hitch their wagons to Bahio. We both went 3-2 on the main card because we had all the same picks. All right, let's see if we pick it up over the prelims here. Pick up the speed. Saying Jonathan Brito. This was it ended the way we hoped and expected, but it was.
We hoped that the referee was going to stick his finger in Jack Shore's shin bone. Is Jack that what
Shore got a bullet wound in his shin from kicks from Jonathan Brito, a TKO doctor stoppage 3:35 into the second round. Brito was kicking him so hard that he kicked a hole in his leg. That's basically
and the doctor stuck his finger in it.
We have doctors do gross. They're always sticking their fingers in things. Doctors.
No, nobody's ever done that. It looked like a war movie.
Even you're sticking by that.
No, that one threw me off because I was like,
really?
I was like,
it'd be on your phone.
No, I was like, ooh, cool, gross injury. Right, with the leg kick, and then the doctor came in and was just like, and I was like, oh God, don't stick your finger in it.
And then
I'm fine with the gross injuries. I'm not fine with the doctor inappropriately penetrating Jack Shore's shin bone.
And then one of our friends in the Discord's like, hey, look, I got the same wound from getting shot in a parking lot in Las Vegas. I'm like, what?
I wasn't in the Discord.
I think it was our friend. I think it was our friend Eric. He's like, yeah, don't make phone calls and standing around in the parking lot. That's such a USA thing to do, just to get randomly shot in the leg.
Shout out to Eric and his bullet wound.
Yeah, it looked just like this. So yeah, Brito kicks that hard. Yeah, he's a fun fighter. At the very least, he's a fun fighter, but he's also a dangerous fighter. And yeah, look out. Who do you have ideas for who you want to see him fight next?
I mean, I think he's pretty much pushing close to the rankings. I'd like to see him
Yeah.
with like a Alex Caceres. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be. So we had that. I had the next one. Gumby took a swing on Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She looked okay, kind of. She looked fine getting beat up the whole fight.
I was surprised at how bad her grappling looked, because she's been, and that's probably touting Yasmin Lucindo here, because like Lucindo's grappling's always looked good. I've just never seen it against somebody who I also valued their grappling. And here it looked like, I mean, it looked like Karolina Kowalkiewicz just never grappled before. And she
got beat up on the feet though beforehand. So
yeah, well, but I have expected that. I sort of expected that, and I thought that Kowalkiewicz could have made it gritty, could have made it a clinch fest, could have maybe gotten her own takedown, and like she might have actually been more outmatched on the mat than she was on the feet.
Yeah, good win for Lucindo, basically, is what it is. A good win over a veteran who is not a washed-up veteran by any means. Veteran that is still ranked and on a winning streak. So good win for Lucindo. She's only 22, so hits pretty hard in the feet. It didn't finish double K, but she looked really good in this fight. And this man looked very good too. Muktabek Oralbai. He's one of the rare people who actually went right to the UFC. Didn't have a contender series bout. Was he a short notice?
He was short notice. He took the first
up a weight class too, right?
4 days up a weight class, and I picked him against Uros Medic. And you may have said that was impossible to do, but
yeah, Oralbai came through here at his proper weight class over Elvis Brenner, 29-27 across the board, 29-27 because inexplicably. That's a hard word apparently for me. Anyhow, the ref took a point away for a fence grab by Oralbai, even though it didn't really change the position. He still got taken down. That was a bold move, to say the least.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that he lost the point, but it didn't matter. He was clearly dominating that fight. The only thing I will say, because I was on the Oralbai inside the distance line, I cannot believe how durable Brenner is, man. Like, I know he had never been finished in his career, but I sort of wrote that off as being, well, like, yeah, he's never fought Muktabek Oralbai, right? Like, it's, of course he hasn't been finished. You know, look at the level of competition he's at. No, like, this dude is ridiculously durable. His submission defense is so high. This guy was in bad position after bad position after bad position, and he just kept surviving. I mean, like, I think he's probably trouble for anybody with a bad gas tank. That, you know, like, that's a fact moving forward, because they're not going to get him out of there early.
Are you concerned that he's a team alpha male? It's not like you really
Oralbai?
Yeah, Oralbai is. You don't see a heck of a lot of progress from those fighters. Like, I would rather, like,
I don't know, that's not necessarily true, and I don't mean to group them all together, but it seems like every time they adopt an Asian fighter that they do really well too, right? Like, because they got Song Yudong training out of there half the time, right? And he looks like he's getting infinitely better every single time we see him. And I want to say there was one more too. Guy,
they have a female Asian fighter, I think, don't they? At least one female Asian fighter.
I really wish I could remember that, but it does seem like they wind up with more and more Asian fighters on the roster all the time. So like, I think we're seeing progress on a Muktabek Oralbai. I mean, he did a really good job of like seeing that guillotine that Elvis Brenner was trying to put on him, and he was like, yeah, that's cute, and I'm just going to go to the good position anyway. And even DC said it. DC, the least insightful announcer of all time, was like, he's not going to be worried about that guillotine. He trains at Team Alpha Male, which is like, I actually think it was kind of true. Like, I think in a different era, he probably freaks out at that submission. Not in this one. Like, in this one, he just got right to it.
Yep. Yeah, he just overpowers people. So looking forward to seeing his next fight here. Turkar Close came through for us as lock of the week. Didn't look fantastic, but he did enough to be Joaquin Silva 29-28 across the board. We had him at -160.
Yeah, not much to say here other than, you know, like he won by being younger and stronger.
Yeah, but it didn't look like classic Close. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Looks like he's lost a step for sure.
Yeah, and he's like 36 or 7. So yeah, hasn't been as active as he would have hoped to be over the past few years. So I swept that portion of the prelims. Gumby got the Karolina Kowalkiewicz one wrong. Go to the early prelims. This man looked great. We had him. Fighting nerd Mauricio Hufi. TKO punches Jamie Malarkey 442 into the first round.
What'd you think of that scissor sweep? because that's my favorite move the whole night. That might have
he has some gusto, this man.
That might have exceeded the moonsault for me.
Yeah.
I loved the scissor sweep. It was fun. It showed that like he's a little bit wild. He Dana White called him Conor McGregor-esque in his performance. Like, not that Dana White is right about this stuff very often, because we all remember. Do you remember who he said felt like the second coming of GSP?
Was it you? I don't remember.
Yeah, Felipe Nover.
The nurse.
Yeah, the nurse. Yeah, he said he feels like he's got the same skill set as GSP. So, no, like, so I'm not saying anything about that, but like he's clearly got the mic skills. He's got a very fun striking style, and I mean, he just took it to Malarkey in every possible way. So, yeah, I'm excited to see all the fighting nerds fight again. Put them all in there on a card again 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, man, they are fun. This one, I wouldn't say controversial, but I could have seen our girl Ernesta Kate winning, but in the end she did not get the judges nod. Dion Barbosa, both these women were debuting in the UFC at flyweight. Barbosa won 29-28 cross board. I think she looked better on the feet than we expected or hoped Barbosa to look, and that is what cost us our plus 185 stab at the dog here.
Yeah, I thought Karakate had won. I thought she won the second and the third.
Yeah, me too.
She landed better in the second. I mean, the third was no question, right? She clearly won the third. She clearly lost the first. It really comes down to that second. I thought she landed better. But like also when that round ended, I'm like, we're in Brazil and it was that close. Like, you can't feel good about that. No. And I don't think Karakate did either. She like went for it in the third round. It seemed like she was trying to get Barbosa out of there. But like, she's still kind of got a short record. She hasn't been out there all that long, but I do like what I see out of her striking. I think as long as she is and as dangerous as she is, we're going to see better things from her in the future. And I don't know necessarily that I leave that fight feeling more impressed by Dion Barbosa.
Yeah, you don't think she looked better on the feet?
I mean, a touch, but like, I mean, like, did it look like she beat very many like good flyweights on the feet?
No, flyweight's pretty good now. So
yeah, it's like a good division for that. So like, I don't feel like you're gonna run her in there with anybody with takedown defense and she's gonna beat him. You know what I mean? Like, if she can't get it down, I still feel like she's gonna lose most fights in that division.
Yep. I got the next one right. Gumby did not, because he guaranteed either Karolina Kowalkiewicz or Vink. You can say Vink. Vince Pichel. You guarantee one of them would win, and neither of them won. I think if we go back in the tape, yes.
I don't think it was a guarantee. I said I'd be surprised.
Or maybe it's true. There you go. We're it's semantics. What we're arguing over here. The Ishmael, the not as good Bonfim brother, took care of Vince Pichel, the old man. 30-27 across the board.
Do you think Pichel forgot that he knows how to wrestle really well?
He definitely didn't try.
Because he didn't even try, man. And it'd be one thing if he was like, oh, I don't really want to be on the ground with Ishmael Bonfim because he's a good grappler or whatnot, which is totally possible. But after a round of the beating he took on the feet, we don't try in the second. Like, we don't shoot that in the second. It seemed like a weird game plan to be like, oh, none of this is working on the feet. I wonder what would happen next round on the feet, which is, it just didn't seem very logical to me. And maybe that's because he's 41 years old and there's not a lot of 41-year-old lightweights who are still kicking around. So
no,
yeah, kind of disappointing from a fight IQ perspective here.
That's what the night was all about, Gumby. So that should have tipped us off right there. In the opener, hit this one. Alessandro Costa took care of Kevin Borjas. TKO punches 135 into the second round. We both have Costa at a pretty decent number, minus 130.
Yeah, I felt really good about this one, mostly just because first of all, I'm a fan of Borjas, but like, I think Costa is maybe the most underrated flyweight in the division right now. Because he's 2-2, right? He was 1-2 coming into this fight, and everybody was, I kept hearing people tell me how into Borjas they are. And not that I don't like Borjas, but like, man, Costa has looked really good against. He fought Erceg and Albazi in 2 of his first 3 fights.
Yeah.
And looked good doing it, which is not easy to do against those 2 guys. Those 2 guys are tough. So like, this is the kind of performance I think I was expecting to see out of him. We're going to see a lot more of Alessandro Costa, I think.
It's the striking. What we said, we hoped he would use his, or I at least said, hope he would use his grappling to win this fight, but it was the striking was coming through for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the whole. I think he's the real
Yeah.
deal in both areas. You know, like he's fast, he's strong, he's
Yep.
powerful. I was just worried he was going to spend too much time wrestling or striking and tire himself out because Borjas does have an exceptional gas tank.
Yep.
But like, no, it didn't matter. He got him out of there.
Yeah, you know, us is the real deal. Me, I'm the real deal. 10-3 on the night, up $130. Gonna be 8-5, down
130. That's how chalky.
Yeah, it was a chalky night. Gonna be down, but I'm only down $1 on the year, $1.07. I was out of the red and into the black for part of the fight card until Petrino and Martinez failed me. So I'm right there, 62% on the year. I'm only down $1. Gonna be 54% down 2,300. But he says there's still time. So
there's still time. I caught you last year, so
it's true. We both had Close as our locks. We both had Carrot Kate as our dogs, which did not come through. Gumby had Oral by Inside the Distance, which sadly didn't happen. He was working on it. And then I had Bahio Knockout at plus 250. That was my big hit here. Close did not win via knockout, so half of the Hungry Man Jong didn't come through. But Pereira via sub did come through, which was nice. And we went, I think we were 8-3 on consensus picks, so pretty good for us there. As for bonuses, no fight of the night, performance of the night, Michelle Pereira, Caio Bahio, Maurizio Hufi, Alessandro Costa. So that was UFC 301. As I mentioned off the top, we got another fight week coming up, and people in the Discord, or at least Jong, are already excited about it. That's what kind of people we're dealing with. That's our type, our level of viewers and listeners. We have 13 fights on the card. You would guess, oh, this is a UFC Apex card. Looking at the card, no, they want people to pay for this in the Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri. I guess St. Louis doesn't get a heck of a lot of UFC fight cards, but this is a UFC fight card. I'll give it that. But I'll read it. Gumby probably will tell you why it's fantastic, and everyone within driving distance of St. Louis should go to it. Main event: Derek Lewis. That's something good right there. Versus what Rodrigo Nascimento. Co-main event welterweights, Joaquin Buckley is back already against Nursultan Ruzaboyev. Then we got Alonzo Menifield at Carlos Olberg. That's a fun one, I guess. CDF, Carlos Diego Ferreira, Matias Rebecki, Rabisti, Alex Caceres. Gummy just mentioned him. Sean Woodson. That's a weirdo fight, which is fun. Waldo Cortez Acosta, Robles Despagne. Another fun one. At least half of that's fun. That's the main card. Prelims, Chase Hooper, Slava Klaus, or aka his government name, Vyacheslav Borshev, Terrence McKinney, Esteban Rebovitz, Tabitha Ricci, Baby Shark, Tisha Pennington, no longer Torres, Billy Goff, Trey Waters, Charles Johnson, Jake, Hadley, Jared Gooden, Kevin Jussier, JJ Aldridge, Veronica Hardy, no longer Machado. So fun fight card for us for sure, but UFC Apex written all over this, but it's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun fights on there though, and a lot of freaky ones because you mentioned Caceres versus Sean Woodson being a real freaky one. They're both tall and lanky and like weird.
They are tall as well. Yep.
But how about Billy Goff versus Trey Waters, which has got to be like one of the most absurd height differences in a fight. Because Trey Waters is like 6'5", Billy Goff notably not 6'5". So like that's a fun one. And of course, like I like seeing Tisha Torres or Tisha Pennington rather. I like seeing her back in there. I like seeing Tabitha Ricci being the one to welcome her back. That's kind of like a fun narrative there. And then Slava Claus, if you give him somebody who's going to bang with him, who doesn't enjoy that?
And Chase Hooper will bang. Chase Hooper will do whatever you want to do in a fight. He'll grapple.
But
bang.
Here's my question though. If Chase Hooper wants to grapple, can he? Because like not that Slava Claus has looked like he's particularly good at defending takedowns because he's bad at it. He's quite bad at it, notably. I don't know how good of a wrestler Chase Hooper is. So, we're probably about to find out.
Yeah, we will find out. So anyhow, it should be fun. That is this coming week. That will be our Wednesday and Thursday episodes, but we have 2 more episodes before then. We have some regional MMA. All you freaks love the regional MMA, so we were going to cover it the next few days, Monday and Tuesday. Tell the people what we're covering, Gumby.
So we're going to cover Brave 82, which usually you can find good odds out there for Brave. So that's an exciting one to have on there. And then we're going to do a little Sunday MMA action with Fury FC 90.
Yeah, we haven't done Fury for a few months, so that will be fun. Yeah, it's always good that they run basically Sunday afternoons, which is a good end to the weekend. Usually they have, some decent fighters have come off their.
It's a really good Fury card this time too.
Fantastic. All right. So we'll probably do Brave tomorrow, Fury on Tuesday. In the meantime, Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord, the Twitter, SGPN MMA, Gumby Vreeland, Jeff Fox Writer are the handles there. I'm Jeff Fox Writer on Instagram. I told you about my Substack, moneymma.substack.com. Get in there. I run a weekly UFC pick'em. So at the very least, you can get a free subscription and play the pick'em. Gummy's got Top Turtle MMA podcast. You should listen to that every week. It's no longer, let me think. How did your fighters do this week? A 1-1 this week for the fighters you had on. No.
Yeah, Kai Boaio was on it. Come on.
Yes.
You can't be upset about that. And he said he was going to knock out Paul Gregg.
Yeah, there you go.
No jinx here.
You can make money if you listen to Top Turtle. So there you go. What else? Our man Scuba admitted he doesn't listen to Top Turtle. He admitted that in the Discord last night. So I told him you better come. No, it's not fine, Gumby. Everyone needs to listen to it. It's not okay. Come on, do better, Scuba. And of course, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. So you can wear a hat like mine or a sweatshirt like Gumby's wearing. Sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. So we can go do battle with those corporate gambling sites out there. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. It'll be the Cannibal Jeff Fox. It will be who should you be? You're going to be Lionheart, Gumby Vreeland, and we'll talk to you then.